Hi, wait lang ha. Ano pa ako, mag-share lang po ako. Okay, there we go. Sandali lang. Last share before we start. Hang on. Sorry. Ayan. Di ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Ito po ang Luminous. And as usual, I'm going to ask you all to like and follow. To follow our Facebook page and as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. Uh, don't forget to share this live as well, which is why I'm medyo slow starting kasi nga, ayan. Kasi nag-share ako. So magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. I hope you're all having a good Friday night. Let me just check who's on board. Hi. Maganda. Of course, unang-una dito si Ma'am Bell. Hi, good evening. Ruben Luis Lorenzo, Antonio, SC30, Marian Choco, Inday Peda. Eva Nunez, Ruby Dalde, Teresita Abaw, Bayon Alcoseba, Bea Cervantes, Lolshen 69 Noipi, Annalisa Ayuban, Cams, Chester Allen Lang, Emily Ann Bacolod, Tina Almeda, Jen Garcia Calderon. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Ay kay Ma'am Isa Luren, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. So, actually, today is Chika weekend because it's a Friday. I was wondering if there's anything that you'd like to discuss or what we'd like to talk about. But I see that there are some questions early on because of the clarificatory statement na in-issue ng COA. So let's put that on the screen. There you go. COA clarification. On the rulings, the COA says that the consolidated audit report contains observations and findings. Actually, I read this clarification, and basically what it says is this. It was an observation report. So hindi pa siya final audit report for the year. Pagka observation po ng COA, papadala yung observation na yan doon sa agency at hihingan ng clarification. So, okay, ito, DOH, ito yung na-observe namin. Certain X billions were forwarded to these agencies, but there is nothing on record to indicate that you have a contract with those agencies. Provide us with those contracts. So, ibig sabihin, dun sa observation report, hindi pa po final. May pagkakataon pa ang DOH mag-explain. So, ang clarificatory statement, on the other hand, the DOH basically says that, everything is accounted for. Yung sinasabi naman ng COA dito, it's not an accounting issue. Hindi namin sinasabi na mali yung pagkakasabi niyo kung paano ginastos to, or may missing na pera and all of that. Hindi namin sinasabi yan. Ang sinasabi namin, itong mga gastos ninyo, halimbawa, there's a certain amount na hindi nagastos. Ang reason ng DOH, kasi in-extend naman yung period. Okay? So, let's make the judgments later on. Ang sinasabi ng COA, there is no crime yet. Kasi may pagkakataon pa silang sumagot. So, dito dun sa mga findings namin, na kulang yung resibo, kulang yung records ng paano pinili yung mga ito. Kulang yung records. May pagkakataon pa silang sagutin kung bakit yung mga paso na nagamot ang na-distribute and so on. Or bakit may mga gamot na approaching expiration na nandun pa sa mga warehouses. So, they're waiting for the answer of DOH. Pag nakasagot ang DOH at hindi satisfactory yung kanilang sagot, then it becomes either a crime or an administrative offense where the COA can now make a recommendation with the OMB for prosecution or with another body for prosecution. Okay? So malinaw yon. In other words, ang sinasabi, intayin ng COA, intayin natin yung sagot ng DOH. Ang problema dito is, what the COA has failed to take into consideration is they submit allegedly, according to the news reports, 8 months ago, 7 or 8 months ago pa nila pinadala yung kanilang observations dito sa COA. Hindi naman maliwanag how many days they have or how many weeks they actually have para sumagot dyan. So, ang tingin ko dyan, 8 months, medyo yun yung part na irregular. Pero tama naman ang COA. Kailangan bigyan ng pagkakataon ng DOH na makasagot dito sa mga observations nila. So hindi ito negative o audit findings, meaning hindi sinasabi ng COA, okay, you did wrong here kasi hindi pa sila makaka-conclude at this time. Okay. Let me see your comments. Good evening po. Sana po mabigyan ng pansin yung SRA at hazard pay ng mga healthcare workers. Madami pong wala pang natatanggap since nag-start yung pandemic. So I assume, kasi sinasabi ng DOH na yung pagkagastos ng ibang mga pera ay supposedly should have gone to the, ano po yung SRA? Paki-explain nga po kasi hindi niya na naman. Sige guys rules for asking questions here. Complete your question. Huwag niyo akong bibigyan ng abbreviations, huwag niyo akong bibigyan ng numbers na pertaining to certain laws or rules or whatever kung hindi nyo i-enumerate yung rules na yon. So I don't know what an SRA is but I know what a hazard pay is. Ang sinasabi ng DOH, na-release naman yan. Ngayon, may mga pera na hindi pa nare-release o nagagastos ng naaayon dun sa budgetary allocation niya or requirement niya, pero na-extend naman yung period, so sinasabi ng DOH dito, you give us some time para matapos namin yung mga obligasyon nyo in that period na in-extend. Okay, nanonood po. Nasa comment section po si Attorney Ahmed. Ito, sabi ni Ma'am Rachel, dapat po kasi diretso kaso po sila, wag nang idadaan pa sa media mileage. Sino po yung, yung mga criticize. Well, kanina sa Karambola, we also brought this up. Pero ang kinikriticize nga namin are these. Hindi pa kasi nagbibigay ng clarifications ang COA. Ngayon lang hapon yan lumabas. So in the meantime, can we criticize, halimbawa, bakit kulang ang documentation ng DOH? Yes, of course, we can do that. Kung kulang ang documentation, it means inefficient sila. And how come nagre-release sila ng pera nang walang documentation? Yung documentation, yung mag-i-indicate yung purpose nun and how much is going to be forwarded. At saka in terms of reference between the agencies. So it is really shoddy management kung kulang. Ngayon, technically hindi pa siya offense if they have the opportunity pa na punuin yung yung terms niyan. O ito yung records. Baka naman din meron naman sila palang kasunduan, meron naman palang memorandum of agreement, hindi lang nila na isa-submit doon sa audit. Okay. Maraming salamat kay Rene Braga Bainco. Okay, Jean Chigers is watching from London. Okay. Good evening po. Morning daw sa Hawaii ngayon. Alright. Sabi ni Recor, hi. Nagpasa rin kay Pidutsi Cayetano. Why don't you get your cat? Ito, Marlene Aranzado said, lagi nga kulang supply ng gamot sa mga barangay healthcare centers. That is correct. So yan, that's a valid observation on our part. So ang sinasabi ng COA, na-point out na nila yung tungkol dito sa mga warehouse. In fact, matagal nang ni-report ng Karambola yan. Napapaso, remember last year, nag-release sila ng mga gamot na malapit na mapaso, matter of days lang, tapos nag-release sila kahon-kahon to several beneficiaries. So tama si Ma'am Marlene, bakit ganon? During the rest of the year, kulang na kulang ang gamot, pagkatapos pag malapit na mapaso sa nila, nag-uura-urada silang i-distribute. Alright, valid observation. COA saying, di pa natin alam, let's wait for their response, for their explanation. Kung hindi valid or hindi katanggap-tanggaping explanation na yon, di kakasuhan sila. Dapat kasuhan sila sa OMB. Ang sinasabi ng Malacanang, let's wait then. So yun din ang sinasabi ng Malacanang. Pag-clarify nga ito. Ang kinaklarify naman ng DOH is everything is accounted for. Hindi naman yun yung tanong. Tama ba halimbawa yung pagbibigay ninyo ng pera sa ibang mga ahensya, paano natin malalaman kung tama talaga yon kung wala tayong mga memoranda of agreement o yung mga terms of reference dun sa paglilipat ninyo ng pera dun sa mga ahensya na yon. 'Di ba? O halimbawa, nagpapadala ang DOH. Let's say, kasi ang budgetary allocation could be to the DOH, I'm not sure, let's say vaccination, administrative expenses, etc. Bibigay either sa LGU or sa DILG or whoever is in charge of that. Din tama, kailangan i-account nila yon. Now, if it is accounted for, where are the terms of reference, which is part of your accounting. So, it's also not completely true pala na naka-account sila. Kindly discuss if ever Pacquiao's dual political party. Okay, pinost natin kanina doon sa Luminous yung statement ni Attorney Melvin Matibag, Secretary General ng PDP Laban. At ang sinasabi niya, hindi basta-basta itong pag-iimbestiga sa kanya tungkol doon sa dalawang partido niya. Kasi obviously nag-swear allegiance si Senator Pacquiao sa PDP Laban when he became a member and then consequently president of the party, na magiging loyal siya dun sa kanyang partido. And now, ang ginagawa niya is supposedly, according to the PDP Laban, at least to SecGen, ginagawa niya, ino-organize niya yung kanyang local or regional party para maging national party, all likelihood gawin niyang vehicle for his presidential or vice presidential run. Ang maliwanag lang dito is, well, hindi na it doesn't look like there's going to be a Manny Isko Manny Isko Manny tandem, di ba? So, okay. Hi po, maraming tao gusto nang magpa-vaccine pero until now walang available na slot for them although they already registered 2 months ago pa sa LGUs. I think by now it depends on the LGUs and of course the supply of vaccines, pero tuloy-tuloy na halos po ang pagdadating ng mga bakuna. So it might be the administration of the LGUs kasi halimbawa itong Quezon City, in our personal experience, less than 2 weeks po after registration online, after nagkagulo din yung registration kasi sa Quezon City, noon inayos na nila, ito, in a matter of 2 weeks, yung mga natapos na rin most of the A3 and senior citizens, most but not all. So dun sa ibang barangays, they're already starting with the A4s. So hindi ko po alam kung baka it might be your particular barangay or particular LGU that might be having a problem. Kasi may mga dumating pa in addition today ng mga Sputnik eh. Ano pong pwedeng gawin para baguhin qualifications ng isang DOH secretary yung bigyan ng big consideration management at leader skills? Kasi ang mga cabinet secretaries po are chosen by the president on the basis of, among other things, trust and confidence. So these people serve at the pleasure of the president, and it is the president who determines what the criteria are going to be for the appointment of these people. So hindi natin pwedeng gawing well, of course we can do it by law, di ba? Pero how are you going to make an evaluation? Ito magaling na manager ito hindi. 'Di ba? You can be a graduate of a management course but you will still not be a good manager. So, kasi ang hinahanap ninyo is taking into consideration the skills. So, paano mo i-determine ang skill level? It will still be, and the ultimate decision maker there is the president, no matter what the standards set by the by Congress. Ano pa yung isang balancing diyan? The Committee on Appointments, Commission on Appointments. Ang Commission on Appointments naman, hindi yan ang hinahanap kadalasan. Sabi ni Briggs, mukhang tatakbo sa national position itong si Yorme. Meron na kasi siyang advertisement sa TV. We already knew that, di ba? What about yung statement ni Senator Pimentel comparing ang pagkakaroon ng political party ni PRRD bukod sa PDP Laban sa issue ng case Senator Pacquiao? Good evening po. Well, it was PDP Laban that asked him to join, di ba? And the president had a local or regional party. Senator Pacquiao has the same. He has a local and regional party. But President Duterte was not organizing his party international one. Or even if he was, ito yung problema. PDP Laban needed Duterte more than PDP Laban needs Manny Pacquiao right now. So it's really up to the party to determine who they want to remain and what the criteria are going to be. But they have to be fair rin. Dapat yun yung criteria, the loyalty, allegiance. Regardless of whether or not the president was disloyal, all they have to do is prove that it was Senator Pacquiao who was disloyal. They don't even have to defend the president. Diba? Because the president is not the one who is on trial. It is Senator Manny. And so if they're going to make a defense, it has to be a defense of Senator Manny and not an offense against President Duterte. Adolfo Rana says, according kay Jason, sa questionable pagka-presidente ni Isko Moreno ayon sa Demokratiko, ay sa Aksyon Demokratiko. Oo. Yes, I read and posted his statements, and in fact dun sa interview niya in another radio station or TV station, in a TV station, ang sabi niya silang mga elders or council na nandun sa Aksyon Demokratiko intend to do something about it. Protesta nila at questionin nila how Mayor Isko had managed to become president. In fact, ang words na ginagamit ni Mr. Sonsa are self-declared presidency. So, let's see. It would be a good thing kasi you put your money where your mouth is. Kung irereklamo mo itong isang tao, then kailangan i-formalize ninyo yung reklamo. Diba? Okay. Ma'am Inday says, alam na ang sasabihin ni Lenny sa linggo, nakakabahala na naman, sana sa kanya na lang ang budget para magasta ng maayos sa halon. Okay. Ike Asioche says, I cannot access your FB page. I am not sure why. Okay, because I have no control about that. So you're going to have to send me I don't know, a picture of why. Marami kasing reasons it could be connection and all that, but certainly I have no idea why, because I don't think I ever remember blocking you because I don't really block people except yung trolls na wala namang mga buka at saka nangaasar. Ano po stand nyo sa kapag parehas tumakbo si BBM at Inday Sara? Then I will have a stand when that happens. I don't like to make conjectures. Watching from Hong Kong, makasta ako if given a chance, BBM Sara or Duterte. Continue to enlighten, sabi ni Emerson, continue to enlighten the people about BBM. Sana siya manalo sa presidency. Nakakatakot pag si Pacquiao at Isko ang naupo. More power from the MCI and SCR. Bakit po ganito nalabas kapag kinikik ko link nyo? Wala akong nakikita sa mga ganito na sinasabi ninyo. Nakahabol sa live. Guys, again uulitin ko, make complete questions or comments. Nag-release ng statement ng Malacanang tungkol sa COA report, harinawa matingnan na maigi ang mga dilawan ay magpipiesta. Bakit ba concerned kayo sa sasabihin ng dilawan kung alam ninyo na mas konti sila? Diba? Does it bother you? Para sa akin kasi, ang importante, kung may mali talagang ginagawa ang DOH, ay may prosecute yung mga yan at matanggal sa pwesto yung mga taong tiwali. Why should we worry about what the dilawan are thinking? We should worry about whether or not there are corrupt officials in government. Ba? Hindi kawalan sa presidente let's say corrupt ito at tinanggal niya, which is what he says he's going to do. Pinapa-explain niya si Duque, which is also the right thing to do. Yan ang due process. Ito, Secretary Duque, paki-explain nga ito. Bakit ano itong mga observations na ito? And I want to make sure also that Malacanang will consider it independently of the process of COA. Pwede rin naman silang magsabi na, sige, hintayin natin yung hatol ng COA dyan kasi sa totoo lang, hindi pa tapos. Judy Litana says, BBM says it's more beneficial for us to have only two political parties so that the best of the best can run for president. In that case, both will be highly competent. Do you agree? I know that it will be, how do you call this? It will be more issue-based if there's only two or probably three political parties. I don't like two lang eh, pero okay na sa akin ng three. Ayoko yung ganitong multi-party system kasi ang nangyayari lang, formality lang yung party. People just go to where the power is, so lipatan ng lipatan. There was a time nga under the Marcos administration when they considered that it would be punishable yung turncoatism. Dapat nga ilang parties lang. And so in that sense, yeah, I agree. Kasi mas maayos yun eh. Paki-explain po tungkol sa recommendation ni Manong Johnny na palitan na lang daw ang 87 Constitution pabor sa 1985. Wala pong 1985 Constitution at saka sa parliamentary system ng gobyerno. Hindi ako sure sa comments. I saw his post and I don't see any comment on parliamentary. Although, maybe I must have missed it. Para sa akin, as long as we follow the process and people agree to it, the majority rules, the Constitution was really considering a parliamentary system, not a federalist one, but a parliamentary system. And ako, I want to see how it works. It was for a time parliamentary under Marcos, but even President Marcos wasn't too sold on the idea. So after a while, it was still the president who was doing everything. Sabi ni Ma'am Wilma, sorry kay Mayor Sara ako kapag dalawa sila ni Bongbong ay tatakbo. Why are you apologizing? Nobody's making you do anything here. Pag si BBM may interview, may sense, ramdam mo yung sinasabi niya na totoo. Si Lenny naman pag may interview, may merienda. Grabe kayo. Annie Bernardo says, nagpabida si Gordon kaya di masangsang ang mouth niya, lalo pag may hearing siya. Hay nako, PRRD pa rin kami. Oo, in case yun na nga, what we were pointing out dun sa Luminous kanina is that, itong mga politicians think that it's going to work. Kasi ganon for so many presidencies, di ba? Ang malakas are yung mga nag-o-oppose. So, the president, his or her popularity will dip towards the end of the term. So yung mga gustong pumosisyon as a candidate, babakbakin lang nila ng babakbakin yon. The problem is President Duterte has not followed that formula. Towards the end of his presidency, ang taas pa rin ng ratings niya. So kahit bakbakin sila ng bakbakin, effect. Diba? Thank you kay Ruthie Sidor. Sabi niya, good evening. Sa wakas, nakahabol din, pero replay ko pa rin mamaya sa buong video. Pangkape or tea for you para di ka magsawa helping us na mamulat. Uy, maraming salamat, madam. Ito, Silverio Junior Cordova says, matagal na yan ang trabaho ng DOH. Baka kuntsaba din ng DOH yung mga supplier ng mga gamot nga, purchase nila nga mas malapit mag-expire. Hindi, ang sinasabi mo, binibili malapit na mag-expire. Hindi po yun ang sinasabi ng COA. Ang sinasabi ng COA, bakit hindi pa nila na-distribute malapit ng mapaso, nandun pa rin sa warehouse ng DOH. How about the 87 Constitution? The preamble and 18 self-contained articles, dapat po bang baguhin? Anong magiging basis natin when you just say the preamble and self-contained articles? Now, there are certain provisions that I am against. Halimbawa, I prefer the president and the vice president to run as a tandem para nobody is tempted to manggulo. Yung vice president will not directly compete with the president, di ba? But you're not asking me anything substantial. You're just saying, etong 18, babaguhin ba natin to? You have to tell me what you want to change. Sabi ni Poncio Pilato, sorry po, 1935 Constitution po pala. Maraming provisions kasi na hindi na naaangkop eh. Halimbawa, yung provisions on social justice, yun na po ang sinusunod natin ngayon. Also, some of the, nag-evolve na yung ibang mga provisions. So, I agree that the 1935 Constitution was well drafted, pero there's some certain provisions that are in the 87 Constitution that I prefer to remain there, such as, but not limited to, the culture and arts provisions. Sabi ni Home Diva, I remember before nung panahon ni FVR, he was pushing for Chacha and everyone was suspicious of this. Should we have supported this during that time? Were we wrong to not support it? Hindi. The reason why we didn't support it was because, and it's the same reason why it's also not fully supported this time, is because we don't trust the people who are going to do it. Halimbawa, tignan ninyo, ino-post namin dito sa Kongreso yung gusto nilang palitan sa ating saligang batas na provisions, yung protectionist provisions. Not all of them pertain to yung are problematic for our economy. Halimbawa, yung protectionist mechanisms for land ownership. Kung ilagay ninyo yung unless otherwise provided for by law, you might wake up someday and even your private property, which you have duly paid taxes on and worked hard for, will suddenly be taken away from you. 'Di ba? Baka matanggal na rin yung baka ma-amend pati yung provision on eminent domain. So the it's more of a trust issue. Kung ang pagbabago natin ng saligang batas ay by constitutional convention, meaning nag-elect tayo ng mga representante natin na pagkakatiwalaan natin na magbago ng saligang batas, then I think trust would no longer be an issue. With FVR kasi, the suspicion was that he might try to extend his term. So, any president who wants to change the Constitution towards the end of his term will be subjected to serious suspicion. Kahit si Presidente Duterte pa yan. Besides, when it was just 2 years before, like last year, it was already too late. Although, to be fair with the president, he tried. He tried to push for federalism early on. Pero kahit siya yung nagsabi na hindi kaya. It's too expensive. And the president had a very specific agenda. And his agenda was to break the back of poverty. Kaya titignan ninyo kung ano yung legislative program ni presidente. Free tertiary education, tax reform, universal health care, and of course, yung Build, Build, Build program. Those are the pillars of the president's agenda. And look at what the effects of these are. Tax reform, binago ng train yung level where you can, where you are taxable. Tinaasan yung taxable income. Meaning, yung mga people who are earning less than 250,000 during the year will not be subjected to taxation and therefore will have money to spend on other necessities. In effect, the president is saying, below this, you're supposed to be exempt from taxes because you might not be able to afford to live. Right? So now you have time, you have a little money, and you will be capable of having savings. And if you have savings, you can, create your own capital. You create your own capital, you can have a business. Hindi ka tied to a job. If you haven't finished or yung free tertiary education also addresses yung possibility na nadi-discriminate tayo because of the level of education and the schools that we go to. Kung hindi ma-afford ng magulang, halimbawa yung really expensive schools, then we have to make do with the mediocre ones and then later on get mediocre jobs. Diba? So we don't have to be tied to jobs. We have tax reform so that we can there's possibility to capitalize our own small businesses. The other pa pala was that finulfill niya yung land reform program. So nakadistribute siya ng lupa and so on, di ba? Land, at saka pinaayos niya yung estate taxes. So that's part of the tax reform. Yung estate taxes kasi, yung mga nakatenggang lupa can be used to capitalize a business. Ibig sabihin, magkakaroon ng panibagong pagkakataon na yung mga tao makaangat sa kinalalagyan nila kasi hindi nila na magamit yung lupa for capitalization, hindi mo ma-mortgage para meron kang pera pang negosyo, magpondo ng negosyo, wala kang lugar para maglagay ng mga tindahan mo and so on. The tax reform is going to release more money to poor people so that they can use this to escape poverty, whether gagamitin yan para sa pag-aaral o gagamitin yan to capitalize a business o ano pa. Tertiary education, tax reform, universal healthcare. Ang universal healthcare, if implemented properly, means that the persons, an entire family can avoid devastation, the economic devastation that happens when somebody gets seriously ill. Kasi ang nangyayari, nababaon sa utang ng mga tao kapag napasama yung yung sakit. And you end up, because if there's no health insurance, you pay so much for healthcare na you end up na nagbabayad pati mga anak ninyo ng mga utang na pinagkagastosan dun sa healthcare. So that's what the president's agenda was. So inuna niya yun bago niya inuna yung pagbabago ng gobyerno. And the reason for this is, the overarching principle behind this is, an informed citizenry will make better decisions about governance, will be better voters, will be better critics of government. Mas nakikita natin kung ano yung mali, and by the time we can also agitate for a better form of government. So yun yung priorities ng Pangulo. So I know medyo lumayo tayo, we're talking about constitutional amendments. Sabi ni Joseph Machete, any update sa proposal na hybrid elections? Bakit ba kayo tanong ng tanong? It's dead. It's dead po. Wala na po siya, and there's no more time. Pinatay na po yan. Sinabi na ni Tito Sen, hindi siya pinick up, walang committee, anything, it's not going to pass through Senate or even Congress. Kongreso nga, hindi sila natapos wala ngang report out ng committee. Si Senator Amy, nag-committee hearings pa yan. Pero wala, nasayang lang kasi walang counterpart rin naman sa House. So, guys, wala pong hybrid elections. It's dead. Okay? Let's not keep asking about the legislature because tapos na po yung pagkakataon na i-push yung hybrid elections. Thank you kay Ma'am LV Soriano. Sabi niya pang Starbucks bo. Tama kayo, konti lang ang mga dilawan. Annoying lang talaga sila. Thank you kay Mitch Bulataw sa kanyang super sticker. Do you think yung 60-40 rules of foreign investments ay mas okay kaysa 100% foreign ownership? For me kasi mas nag-a-attract ng jobs ang restrictions if it's more relaxed, which really right now. Saan bang foreign investment ka nagtutukoy? Kasi kung ang manufacturing sector ang pinag-uusapan, pwede pong 100% foreign ownership. So yung mga 60-40 rule na yan are what we call the nationalized industries. At kokonti lang po yon na fake news po tayo kasi maraming nagsasabi na, kailangan baguhin ito kasi hindi papasok ang foreign direct investments. Hindi po totoo yan kasi nga yung manufacturing sector, it's 100%. May mga industries lang na hindi pinapayagan. Halimbawa, mineral resource extraction, not mineral resource extraction. Kasi nag-aalaw tayo ng foreign companies to do mining here. Ano yung mga industriya niya? Pakitukoy nga. Yun ang sinasabi ko, hindi kumpleto yung question ninyo. Kaya tayo na fake news niyan kasi you're relying on, sabi nila 60-40 rule. Not all industries require a 60-40 rule. In fact, the majority of industries do not require a 60-40 rule. Ano yung mga examples na nagre-require ng mga ganon? Kailangan 100% ownership or restricted ownership in the manufacture of firearms, dangerous chemicals, nuclear weapons or nuclear materials and so on, nuclear related, mga ganyan. The practice of professions are limited to nationals and so on. So tignan niyo po, may listahan po yan kung ano yung mga industriya ang nagre-require ng 60-40 or 100% rule na local talaga. Okay? So kasi kahit yung power generation, hindi naman siya limited Pwede naman siya para sa foreign ownership. Telcos, pwede naman sa foreign ownership. So anong industriya? Itukoy ninyo, sabihin ninyo sa akin anong industriya ang kailangan natin i-relax. Kasi there are only very specific ones na hindi relaxed. And these are nationalized ones for the protection of the people, for national security concerns. 'Di ba? So kunwari gusto ng foreign direct investor, gagawa sila ng kotse dito. Ay, by all means, kahit 100% yan. Confirmed yung kay Atty. Larry kasi napanood ko yung My Valentine's Girl, andun siya. Kung may, amend ako sa Constitution, let's have nukes for deterrent. Nuclear weapons, bawal talaga sa Constitution natin yan. Do you think that a unicameral legislature will be more effective than the bicameral one we copied from the US? Alam mo, the reason I'm not sold on changing government is because some of the problems are really personality related, are related to issues of graft and corruption. We can have any kind of government, but the issues of graft, if the issues of graft are still present, then there is no point. Everything will not work as long as the individuals are incapable of not seeing government positions as a cash cow. In 2003, the Supreme Court awarded to the Philippine government the frozen Swiss bank deposits of the Marcoses. Can this be considered ill-gotten wealth? If it was awarded, then it is ill-gotten wealth. There's no other way around it. They could not have awarded it to the Philippine government. They cannot take away property that does not belong to that belongs to somebody else. So, if it's a PCGG case, then it is automatically ill-gotten wealth. Si Lorelai na asawa ni Bobby Pacquiao na kapatid ni Manny ang tatakbo daw as mayor ng Gensan. Siya din daw ang chairman ng People's Champ Movement. Good luck, taming, ay. Well, it will depend on the people of Gensan kung iboboto siya o hindi. Ang galing po ng mga sagot ng pagkaka-interview kay BBM, sabi ni Fernando Cabrera sa Karambola. Sana magkatotoo BBM Sara o Sara BBM. What provisions po in the 1987 Constitution that you think are oligarch-friendly? I don't think any of them are oligarch-friendly na napagsamantalahan ng oligarchs yung mga yon. So I'm not sure how you say oligarch-friendly. Ang sinasabi ng iba because they were foreign nationals were barred from certain it's not the Constitution ha. Halimbawa, yung retail industry wala naman sa Constitution yan, pero bawal by law ang foreign nationals sa retail industry. This was because in the 1930s, there were laws barring Chinese from owning retail. In other words, sari-sari store, department stores, and all of that. Because early on and in the past 2 centuries, it was the Chinese who were very talented at it or very good at it. So they wanted to bar the Chinese from being in the retail industry para may laban yung mga Pinoy. And as a result, some of those industries are very inefficient because you were barring people who were very good at it. Now, tinuloy po yan. It was called the Retail Trade Nationalization Act. Ngayon, they're seeking to the Congress now or the President wants to liberalize that. Meaning, pwede na pati foreign nationals. Kasi yung sinasabi ninyo, nagiging oligarch-friendly nga kasi dahil local na lang ang pwede mag-invest in those industries, which, like I said, include the gun industry and national security issue industries. And ito, yung retail industry, which is historical naman in its roots. It promoted inefficiency kasi nga yung locals lang and those who already had capital were the ones who were able to invest in it. So yan yung sinasabi nilang oligarch-friendly. But it doesn't really matter kasi nga kung titignan ninyo yung mga listahan ng mga barred industries, mga what we call the nationalized industries, kukonti lang talaga yung kailangan natin baguhin. One of them is the retail industry. Now the rest are not barred by the Constitution. So, you tell me, kasi hindi ako completely sold on that idea. I think that some of the nationalized industries, yes, they do tend to promote inefficiency. Kasi wala kang kakompetensya na foreigner. On the other hand, why? 'Di ba? Why shouldn't we allow the Filipinos to make money out of Filipinos? Why let the foreigners do it? Yun yung ko. For those nationalized industries. Otherwise, for manufacturing and for everything else, it's open to foreigners. So again, you tell me, what do you think are the provisions that are oligarch friendly? And I will tell you whether they are or not. Di ba? Ang pinag-usapan yung karanasan, hindi yung yaman. Si BBM from mula local hanggang legislative. Just saying, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Guys, if you're going to talk to each other, at least make an address. Sabihin ninyo kung ako kausap ninyo o iba. Sabi ni Ren, huwag kayong magpapaniwala kay Dumdum kasi wala talaga siyang real solution. Yung 60-40 thing is just tip of the ice cream kasi lahat yan will not guarantee investment hanggat may under the table. Deo Caru says, I think Grace po will team up with Isko. Mukhang kakaibang kanyang katahimikan sa ngayon. Grace po team up can get voters from Panay Island, Negros Island, and some parts of Mindanao loyal to FPJ. Anyway, abang-abang na lang. Agree po ba kayo sa ivermectin use? Ayon kay Attorney Gadon, he will distribute it like OTC. Again, I don't know what OTC is, so I'm going to skip. One of the best answers in BBM's many interviews asked his take on corruption. He answered it's more of a human condition rather than a system condition. Oh, there you go. Pareho pala kami. Di alam, huwag niyo na maawayin si Byron dito. Arguments, tawag doon, di paninira. He reacting the news BBM opinion yan. Guys, ano ba? You're talking to each other. If you're going to talk to each other, okay, fine. But I'm not going to answer any more questions. Hindi ko na kasi makita kung ano yung actual na tanong. Paano po natin ma-change mga characteristics ng mga politicians para wala ng corruption if hindi kaya ng conscience? Kasi yung suggestion ko might not be good for for social media. I have to think about that. Lahat ng pro-admin at BBM influencer bukod tanging si... Do you have any comments with these activists who are backing up for Isko? Well, anybody, it's a free country. We can back up anybody we want. Pero what I'm saying right now is many of these activists are discredited already and might not even have a following anymore. They're backing up Isko using what? And what can they bring to the table? Their organization skills? Because certainly they don't have the numbers anymore. Posible po bang maibalik yung two-party system? Sa tingin ko, itong multi-party system created more division among our political leaders at wala nang disiplina, puro sarili na ang inuna. Well, yeah, but it's not the answer to all our problems. Like I said, and tama si BBM, I agree with him. It might be a personality problem rather than a systems problem. So we're always looking for solutions in the systems when actually it's about the people that we put into office, di ba? And maybe the opportunities. There's so many bad people, sa totoo lang, or so many good people who once it put in positions of power, it turns their head. And there's very little we can do about it other than removing them from office as often as we can, as often as soon as we can see that they should be removed from office. The two-party system has to be brought back by constitutional amendment. It's in the Constitution. Ano sa palagay niyo mas maganda kung babalik ulit tayo at i-abolish ang party list? Ako, I don't agree with abolishing the party list. It's the rules that they put in. And those rules can be changed. Or I'd like to change how we elect a party list. 'Di ba? At saka saan natin ilalagay? Saan ba natin ilalagay ang party list? Dapat meron ngang party list dun sa mga sa mga city and provincial councils para represented din yung mga underrepresented groups doon. Now, the purpose of the two-party system was to bring to the legislature of the voice of the underrepresented nga. Yung mga those with specialized interests. So we need to protect those specialized interests. Kasi there's nobody to speak for them. The regular representatives na naiboboto natin either don't know or don't care about those issues. And yet those issues are important. Such as, but not limited to, the handicapped. Diba? I guess gender equality is an issue. LGBTQ are not represented many times in their views. Non-Catholics who want to who want to have divorce are not represented in our legislature. Diba? So ako, I do not agree with abolishing the party system, but I do want to change the rules in how they are being elected and how they're being chosen and accredited. um, ibalik yung two-party system, I'm not sure. I think it might be easier, yes, for all of us, and it certainly prevents the confusion of turncoatism. But, and then, yun nga, mas totoo yung checks and balances. Last 2016 election, sabi ni Ma'am Olive, ang daming names ang nawala sa list at di nakaboto like my relatives and friends then. Noong 2019, nandun ulit names nila. Wala bang way para hindi na ito maulit? Well, you can check with the COMELEC now online. Especially those who are concerned na baka inactive na po yung mga accounts nila. Tama, ang dali makapangdaya ng Smartmatic. Gerald Palon says, any reaction or comment dun sa doctor from PGH, the vaccines may cause harm. I think that his comments are the ones that are causing harm. I do believe in the science of the vaccines. And I do believe that in the results that have been delivered by widespread vaccinations. I also understand that, yes, there are instances when sometimes a vaccine or any medicine for that matter goes wrong. And we do have to address that. But I disagree with the doctor discrediting vaccinations because that could be very dangerous in a time of a pandemic. Is there any law that you violate if you don't want to be vaccinated? These days, you're being discriminated if you're not being vaccinated. Actually, that discrimination is legal because of what we call the prevailing national interest. Right now, the law or government has no recourse but to depend on the more objective scientific assessments. I say objective because these can be proven or disproven. Now, some discriminations are not allowed. Halimbawa, no vaccine, no work. The reason it is not being allowed isn't because the Department of Labor is concerned about the safety of the vaccines. Pero government is concerned about the availability of vaccines. So, kung kunwari may rules dun sa office na bawal pumasok kung hindi ka vaccinated, as long as binabayaran ka pa rin and you're still allowed to work, yun lang nga, not in the premises, then that's not discrimination. You're not violating a law if you choose not to be vaccinated. But on the other hand, certain schools that will disallow non-vaccinated people going into schools could be considered legal unless the Supreme Court says otherwise. I'm sorry if you are anti-vaccine. However, the law is in favor of it. But there is no law that requires you to be vaccinated. Yun nga lang, ang sinasabi ng ibang the research indicates that the reason for the variants are the unvaccinated people, where once they get sick, the disease mutates in them. That's how it happens. So if you don't get vaccinated, it is in the interests of the majority to get vaccinated. Paki-explain kung bakit naabsuelto si Maria Ressa sa Rappler sa libel case niya. This is only the second libel case. I suspect that this was settled because hindi siya absuelto exactly. Inurong po ng complainant yung kaso niya. So there was an affidavit of desistance. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na interesado yung nagreklamo. Remember, dun sa second na kaso ng libel na final before of the person who got her convicted, diba? Yung second case na yon, inurong din yon. So, I suspect with this spate of cases na inuurong, it's not about the lack of evidence or anything like that, but it is possible that Rappler is settling these cases. Bakit ka naman magpa-vaccine? Sa totoo lang, hindi naman garantisadong safe. Okay, we're straying into dangerous speech on that one. Ano po ang resulta sa investigation ng C-130 na military plane? Wala pa po kasing announcement. What do you think happened there? Nakapag-announce ni Yorme, after in-announce ni Yome na siya na presidente ng isang grupo na mismo mga namumuno, hindi alam na miyembro na siya. And anong masasabi mo if ever i-endorse ni tatay si Bongo kahit tumakbo pa din si Sara for presidency. Ganito po yun, ano? Hindi pa po officially candidate si Senator Bongo, although tinutulak siya ng PDP laban. So until that time, I don't think there's any reason for me to react. Diba? In fact, I think that is the point of some of these people to force us to react. Why should we react? Hindi pa naman final yan. Yung kay Yorme, well, ako, I'm just really interested in it. Kasi, yun nga, apparently there is a group na within Action Demokratiko na hindi na konsulta. Do you believe na depopulation ang ginagawa ng DOH? No, of course not. Because they insist on lockdown instead of cure like suo, vitamin C, and ivermectin that poses na marami na stress sa lockdown. You know what? If the science indicates that there was a better solution, I'm sure that we would be discussing it. Right now, I'm not sure if there are any better solutions other than vaccines. I'm not a strong supporter of lockdowns until the Delta variant came along. If there was no Delta variant, hindi ko talaga susuportahan ng lockdowns because of the vaccines. But now the vaccines, it looks like we're going to need booster shots later on. And please, by the way, I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories that have very little evidence. What are the risks in amending our 86 Constitution, or is it high time for a charter change? It's been high time for a long time, but the problem is the people we are entrusting with the charter change do not appear to be interested in simply making changes for the betterment of our people. Some of them are interested in amending the Constitution for certain business opportunities that they will be able to partake of. So that is the reason why it's so hard to push for charter change. Gulo ng lugar namin sa vaccine, sabi ni Vince. San po ba kayo? May valid ID na naka-address sa lugar kung saan ka magpa-vaccine na LGU. Gusto ng gobyerno na i-vaccine lahat, pero kami dinideny ng LGU ang walang ID na local, na local sa LGU. Well, that's terrible. If you have a national ID, that should be acceptable. Kailangan ireklamo niyo po yung LGU niyo to the DILG. Bakit madaming party list na same yung nire-represent na cause, like a teacher or ACT teachers, redundant lang, which nauubusan lang ng slot yung ibang representatives ng minor groups? Yeah, the thing is, kasi nga, it's election at large eh. Meaning it's the people who will determine which party lists are going to, be represented. Para sa akin, kasi I don't like the isa lang yung pwede mong ibotong party list, tapos padamihan sila. Ako hindi. I prefer that you have several choices, tapos yun ang paramihan. Para talagang, tsaka one party list representative lang, hindi yung 1, 2, 3, di ba? But you're right, I agree with that one. Kaya lang, it's in the rules eh. Di po sa California ang DHS ay hindi ko po alam kung ano yung DHS. Prohibitions against early campaigning. There are no prohibitions against what you call early campaigning because the campaign period only begins in January. And why are there politicians who already have campaign ads? Because it is legal. Sana po gayahin na lang ng Pinas ang sistema ng gobyerno dito sa Japan. Like I said, it might not be, alam mo, magkaiba yung kultura ng Japan at saka ng Pilipinas. Hindi natin alam kung ang i-impose natin na sistema ay maaangkop sa atin. Para sa akin, di gumawa tayo na mas angkop sa atin, di ba? Bakit tayo nanggagaya sa iba? Ano po bang kaso ni Trillanes sa pag-aakusa ng walang katibayan? May pagkakakulong po ba to? Kaso ni Trillanes sa pag-aakusa ng walang katibayan. I think you have to tell me what exactly he said. Baka libel yan Bakit hindi nag-build ng specific hospital for patients who have COVID like what they did in China? Tignan mo, mas mabilis nilang nasolusyonan at na-isolate yung mga infected. They only did that for Wuhan. 'Di ba? I'm not sure if they did that in the other cities, pero they had to do that for Wuhan. Tinayo nga nila in record time, 'di ba? What, a week? Something like that. And they had enough doctors and medical staff to man it. So, I'm not sure what you're driving at. Dito sa Metro Manila, one hospital, the size of that hospital would have to be the size of a small city to accommodate all of those who are infected. So I'm not sure if that would be valid here. You know, they could do that in China. One, they have the resources. Two, they had the concentration of patients in one area. I thank you, Kay Gabriel, for your super sticker. Japanese federal government, Pinas hindi, ang daming ayaw. So, I think that's what you have to work on. Bakit maraming may ayaw? 'Di ba? Means that you have not sold the idea of federalism. It means that the idea of federalism might not yet has not yet seen its time. So, how do you prepare people for that so that they will understand the need for federalism? One, you have to answer the problems that will arise out of it. Two, you have to be able to ensure that the government has the resources to transfer to that kind of government. Three, people don't understand because the level of education for most of the people is still not at the level where this can be appreciated. So I think that simultaneous to promoting federalism, you have to promote the groundworks. Diba? Can a private establishment impose a no vaccine, no entry policy? Yes, they can. Do take note that stats from China cannot be trusted, sabi ni Faceless Trader. Dinodoktor nila ang COVID numbers nila. Remember, ni-welding din nila ang mga Chinese sa Wuhan sa sarili nilang bahay. Are we in a position really to judge that? And ako, I'm not sure because I don't have the research to indicate if the stats are correct or they're not. Sabi ni JR, they stopped giving the numbers. Why are we concerned about that? May vaccination program po ba ang malalaking pharmacy dyan sa Pinas? Wala po. Dito kasi sa US, you can get vaccinated in the pharmacy. Usually, they have storage and system to do that. Wala po. Nakakatakot na tandem. BBM Sara, Sara BBM. Nakakakilabot sa kalaban, punong-puno ng pag-asa. Agree po ba ikaw? Ay, matagal na po namin na state yan. Watching from Edmonton, Alberta. And it was so tagal na hindi na ako excited. Basta simple lang yan sa akin. Sarah BBM or BBN Tamden will be unbeatable. Watching from Edmonton, okay ako sa national ID, sabi ni Raymond Biascan, para alam mo kung sino ang nagtatago. Ako, I agree. You will not get an argument from me for that. Maganda po ang federations pag malinisan na ang mambabatas. Dito sa UAE, binabakunahan na mga 3 to 7 years old gamit ang Sinopharm. Sa mga 18 years old pataas, third dose na. Sana yung mga may duda pa sa bakuna, magtanong kayo sa mga nasa UAE. 2 years after the shutdown of ABS-CBN, bakit wala pang kumuha sa Channel 2 slot? Kasi hindi pa po ibinibid out ng NTC. Kasi paulit-ulit akong nagsasabi po niyan. Hindi nila binibid out kasi inaatupag daw nila yung digital TV. And that has not changed in 2 years. Okay? Sabi ni Rain, ulitin ko po, Japan is not federal. Huwag kayong maniwala sa correct. Puro BS lang alam nila doon. Because of Abe Shogun Japan, is drawing itself to another Hiroshima. Kung alam nyo lang, we should know this. I have no idea. Sabi ni Ma'am Eva, ang bagal daw ng NTC. Mabagal? Posible. And yeah, when we realize that most of our representatives, be it in the Congress or Senate, are secretly supported by some oligarch or elite few sustaining their campaign funds, and yet we expect them that a system change or charter change would come out of the representatives. Yep. Akalain mo todo tanggol ang CPP and PAK. Isko boy. Yung 15 billion na sinasabing liquidated na ng PhilHealth, na check na po ba ng COA? You can check the COA website actually. I'm not sure. I think more concern natin dun is yung yung investigation ng PhilHealth. Kailan niyo po ba ma-interview si Sarah sa Karambola o program niyo? Excited na kami marinig din ang mga answers niya. Alam niyo, kung kaya ko lang, kahit bukas, 'di ba? Kahit walang karambola bukas. We will see, no? Kasi right now, si Mayor Sara is not a candidate, except probably for Mayor of Davao. So, hindi, alam niyo yun, she's not on the stamp. Hindi siya nangangampanya. That's why tahimik siya. So, I'm not sure if she will agree to an interview. Nevertheless, we're going to try. Ano po pinakamabigat na ikakaso kay Duque if he fails to answer the COA observation? Marami kasi, hindi lang po isa yung observation, pero among other things, pwede siyang administrative cases for dishonesty, yung violation ng Procurement Act, pwede siya sa Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, kung malaki yung nawala or presumed na nakuha or na naligaw, could be plunder, mga ganon. Sana matuto na ang Pilipino against colonial mentality at lumawak ang pananaw sa mga propaganda ng Amerika. I think maabot naman din doon. Dahan-dahan, slow by slow, ika nga nila. Tahimik mga human rights advocates sa kaso ni Corporal Frederick Villasis. What a selective justice. Oo nga eh. Kahit yung CHR mismo. Kasi isipin mo, binaril siya, nakatali, at sa likod. Anong tawag doon, di ba? Para in-ensure nila na the guy couldn't fight back. There's no sporting chance. Hindi yan pinatay sa gyera. Pinatay talaga yan. That's murder. Kailan po kayo magkakaroon ng part 2 ang interview nyo kay BBM? Bitin kasi yung part 1. Oo nga eh. Sana nga ma-interview niya si Sarah para lalong mabaliw ang mga Oh, I can imagine she must be a very interesting interview subject, di ba? What do you think for your May presidency? Manalo ba siya kay Sarah o kay BBM? Baka sabihin nyo biased. Eh. Pero ganito po yun. Si Yorme, bata pa siya. People will take that into consideration. Not because of inexperience, but mostly because may pagkakataon pa siya in later years. 'Di ba? Ako iisipin ko 'yon. BBM is what? In his 60s. And, he's a seasoned politician, he's diplomatic and all that, and well qualified. So, if Sarah doesn't run, then I think BBM, given his age and experience, it's the right time for him to lead. Si Yorme, I would consider na even if I think that he would have the leadership qualities and the experience, ang tingin ko, bata pa siya. Meron pa siyang opportunities later on tumakbo. And he has the chance then to gain more experience and to understand also, kunwari, how a campaign works and how to make it better, how to spot the thieves and the chuwariwap among his people and all that. So, for me, si Yorme has should try out uh, to remain as mayor of Manila, or let's try him for the Senate so that he sees o ano yung branch na yon, makalahok siya dun sa legislative branch para mas lumawak din yung appreciation niya ng gobyerno. Pag umakyat ka na bilang presidente, because the president was not just a mayor, he was also a congressman. So nanggaling siya from two branches of the of government already. Plus, he worked in the justice system and very closely with the judiciary. So si Mayor Isko, bata pa, marami pa siyang pong chances. Whereas si BBM, ano na siya. On the other hand, for me, si Mayor Sara, uh, well, she has the panache and the backing and all that. So I'm not sure. Maybe Mayor Sara might also benefit from being in the legislature and all that. Let's see. Pero for me, with Yorme, parang bago siya as mayor. May chances pa malaki pa yung magagawa niya for Manila. Pwede pa siyang magsenado para makita nga itong other part of it. And I don't know, I think that si Mayor Sara kasi matagal-tagal na ring mayor nakailang terms na siya, di ba? Ano mapapala sa away BBM Sara? Wala. Hindi naman sila magkaaway. It's just the followers who are nag-aaway. So, wag natin patulan yon, di ba? Pang coffee, thank you from Ma'am Ile Caramoser. Thank you for your super chat. Si Ma'am Maika. Thank you for your super sticker. Alam ko na pasalamatan na kita, pero nandyan pa rin yung mo. Ito, have you worked out a game plan already, sabi ni Gamer Dudes, with all alleged Pac-Man trolls in preparation for a counter punch once the pseudo-appointed candidate is back home? If I have, it would be ridiculous for me to publicize it, diba? Sabi ni Ma'am Inday, yabang naman yun, may artistang-artista ang dating niya. I think kasi that si Yorme has the time to make mistakes. Diba? Let's just hope that the mistakes that he makes aren't, he can recover from them. Diba? Yun Sa akin, hindi, I don't really want to dismiss him because magsusurvive siya Mataas siya sa ratings for Senate, halimbawa. He can run for the Senate. And it might be even good for his career to do that. He might have to recalibrate yung mga responses niya. Of course, to do is make a big flash. Malakas na dating. And that might not be good for him, which is why some seasoning in the Senate and learning to work with others and learning the collegial aspect of legislative work might temper him a little. Ang hanapin mo yung GDP growth ng isang lugar, hindi yung literal mong itatype yung richest city. Ayan, nag-uusap na naman kayo. Thank you kay Kusina ni Ontik, nagbigay din ng pangkape. Bahala ka na sa tinapay. From Lisa and Carlo in Edmonton. Thank you po. Thank you kay John Lorenzo for the super sticker also. Salamat kay Ma'am Janet. Sabi niya na-share ko na po. Which means, reminder everybody, yung mga hindi pa po nag-share dyan. RV says, bumoto ko kay Gibo noon. Sayang yung opportunity nung time na nag-offer si PRRD ng post kay Gibo noon. He could have proven something at makita niya yung capabilities niya like nila Sec Villar at Lolo Art. Ngayon may plano na siya tumakbo, but ngayon medyo nawala na siya sa limelight, hati na yung mga Pilipino. I agree. He could have taken that opportunity para na din siya, na nakikita siya ng mga tao. It would have been a natural campaign. Plus, magaling si Gibo. Matalino yon. He's a good lawyer. He was good in the as Secretary of National Defense. Pero you're right, the problem now is marami nang hindi nakakaalala sa kanya. pinagtatawanan kayo ng dilawan yan kasi di pa nagde-declare si Sara at BBM. Oh, on the contrary, si BBM nag-declare na tatakbo siya. He just didn't say what position. Let's be objective. BBM is hinog na for the top position with all the exposure and the timeliness of his programs. Any of the Dutertes for VPs just right to ensure winnability. Okay, but I understand that others don't share your opinion. Important tips or advice naman po dyan para sa gustong kumuha o maipasa ang pag-aabogasya. Thanks in advance. You have to love reading because if you're going to be a law student, you're going to be reading a lot, as in a lot. So kung hindi ka mahilig magbasa, wag na lang, consider another career. Because you'll be reading for the rest of your life, a lot. Second, you have to expand your vocabulary. The law is still taught in English, so your English must be good. Okay? Not just passable, not di pwedeng mediocre because some bar examinees get turned off by bad grammar and sometimes the the preposition will mean everything in the world if you're talking about a criminal case. So you have to have good English. I wish it weren't so, but it is. So yun yung mga basics lang muna. And then, of course, once you're in law school, you have to study. It's garbage in, garbage out. There's no such thing as stock knowledge in law school. Once you go to law school, everything is going to be new. Okay, so good luck if you want to go to law school. Thank you kay Ma'am Bessie, busybody. Sabi niya, pang coffee and donut yung padala niya. Si Ruby Dalde, nagpadala naman ng pantinapay. Salamat po. When I finally figure it out, I really want to do a super sticker, super chat. It seems I can't do it on the phone. Ay, ma'am, I haven't tried it nga on the phone. Oo nga, no? Baka nga sa laptop lang. Steve says, any possibility to run for senator? I'm more likely to be declared a saint rather than to run for senator. Diba? Elections are hit or miss in this country. Diba? Para sa akin, I will go where I can do some good. And right now, I think that I am doing some good here on social media. So, it might be better na dito na lang muna. Kasi, di ba, gosh, it's expensive to run for office. And you don't want naman to rely on donations of other people, especially if those donations are going to come with strings attached. So the problem with our electoral system is that it requires a lot of money. And because it requires a lot of money, paano babawiin yun? It is good if BBM wins as president, kaya lang madami pa din naniniwala sa mga Aquino. Kailan po kaya maaalis ang name ni Ninoy sa airport? Well, when we have a more determined Congress. Nice tip, attorney, for the tips on studying law and be a lawyer someday. It's one of my life goals, sabi ni Rain. Highly recommended ko po sa friends ko your views and how you answer questions. Oh, thank you. Sabi ni Apple 4, can this RA 9262 Vausito, no? Can this be applied to those domestic helpers who are mothers leaving their children that may cause mental or emotional suffering of their children? Vauci po is violence against women and their children, and the accused is the male spouse or partner. So it's not, unless you're talking about the child abuse law. Now, if it's the child abuse law, that's why I keep telling you, you have to not give the number of the law, but the title of the law. So if it's, child abuse, I'm not sure kasi very specific yung instances of child abuse. It could be negligence, but the direct, how do you call this? The direct person who will be liable for that will be the person taking care of the child. not the person who left the child necessarily, ah. Meron din namang neglect in that instance kung wala siyang inassign na guardian. Maraming salamat for feeding us valuable info pang tea o chai, karak. Uy, Indian tea milk. Ito na yan. Thank you kay Gabi Chiyonofuchi for your pang tsaa. Sabi ni Ma'am Pinay Paparazzi, panach is the word of the night. Ay, may nagbasa ng wall. Wala man lang incentive na binigay ang office ni Mama Lenny sa mga Olympians. Puro press release at pamumulitika lang. Boo. Well, she's, arranging for vaccines of, grab drivers and delivery drivers and tricycle drivers. Thank you kay ZST. Sabi niya, uy, ang dami ko ng pampandesal. Thank you very much. Anong stand nyo sa Healthy Pilipinas Mobile Clinic ni Lisa Hontiveros which starts in Cebu? Ganito po kasi yon. Even if I don't like the person, if you do a lot of good, then I will not complain. I do complain kapag may mga inefficiencies na in government. And ang inefficiency na yon ay sinusponsor mo kasi nanumulitika ka. So, take that as you will. I remembered in 2016 presidential elections, ang trend ay yellow troll. Bakit pinabaliktad nila ngayon na mas maraming troll ang admin? Dilawan naman talaga ang tunay na troll. Totoo yun. Ask lang po, bakit ngayon lang po na-approved yung mga body cam sa ating kapulisan? Hindi po, ngayon lang po natapos yung rules ng Korte Suprema. Nakakuha na sila ng body cams pero not a lot yet for a pilot project or at least enough for a certain number para dun sa mga very specific raids pursuant to search warrants and arrest warrants. They're trying to get enough para pati those who are on patrol para pagka dun sa mga warrantless arrests. Pero they had to wait for the Supreme Court rules on it. Meron na pong rules ang Korte Suprema. There was this vision that the next president will be a woman, not the daughter of the president daw. I did not hear about that. The vision was the next president will be a woman. And wala yung qualification na not the daughter of the president. So, wag naman natin anuhin ang sarili natin. Bigyan natin ng sarili natin ng problema. Dinidepress nyo na yung mga tao, wala pa man, di ba? Kapag ganyan na na wala namang kasiguraduhan, let's not spread the nega feeling. It makes people feel bad and nothing has really happened yet. Di ba? Sabi ni Ma'am Lourdes, miss ko na kayo sa karambola. Hindi naman po ako umalis. Lang kami, nagka-outage lang kanina. Bihira po ako makanood ng show niya dahil conflicts work schedule but I always watch sa replay, sabi ni Ito na, ay, thank you. Maliit ang kita ni Pacquiao ngayon sa boxing dahil sa canceled na laban kay Spence. Masakit sa bulsa pag tumakbos president, ubos kong mapapamudmod. Pero tuloy naman po yung laban niya against Luminous. He's the welterweight champion, di ba? Nag-react si Kiko Pimentel, Coco. Sabi niya gusto lang daw guluhin ng mga PDP laban yung fight ni Pacquiao. Really? As if naman may connectin sa issue ni Pacquiao. I think the trend for today is mga walang connect na sagot. Yan. Why is it that Mayor Isko is the president of the party without the knowledge of the older members? Is it appointed like Manny Pacquiao? I'm not sure. Let's wait for the elders to contest the issue para makita natin exactly what rules they violated. Nababasa mo po ba yung mga comment ko? Sabi ni Marilu Sinangcote. Opo. Kusina ni Ontik, buti pa ang office ng president nagbibigay ng 500k aid para kay Onyok Velasco. May malasakit talagang presidente. I like that narinig nila. I hope those body cams will be used on the Makabayan block for them to be caught red-handed for their support and alliance to the CPP-NPA. The body cams are used for arrests. So they have to be either, if there's no warrant, they have to be committing a crime. If there's a warrant, there should be probable cause. So the question is, what law do you think they're violating? Matanong ko lang, totoo po bang nakulong si Manny Villar sa abroad? Kasi bigla siyang nawala sa eri. Manny Villar, the elder. I'm not sure po. I have not heard of that. Nung bawiin yung belt ni Pacman, si Ugas ang humawak. May maghahay lang sa inyo.
Hi. Mag-stream ka.
Opo. Kapag di tumakbo si Sara, baka manalo ano yan? Pau Dandem, ang nakikita ko lang yung Isko. Okay, last 3 questions, mahaba-haba na to, baka mabore kayo. Kahit sino susuporta ng mga oligarchs para ibalik ang ligaya. Ayan, ang dami nag-hello sa a certain Ahmed. Okay? I just want to share that my sister, pamangkin at apo who just arrived from Oman were very thankful as they were treated as VIPs from airport to hotel in Davao and flown back door to Cavite. O, di ba? Natauhan ako nung panahon ni Pinoy kasi wala nang excuse for incompetence. Di tulad noon kay Cory, although napalitan nga niya ang constitution. Di sila trolls, di pa lang natauhan. Ooh, okay. Deadly. Thank you kay Nano ni. Ambag ko pang tweet kay Har Har Harry. Ay, baka hindi ka na makatulog. Dami mo ng kape. Hello from Denmark. Okay, kinig siya while making COVID testers. O, yung toro. Ay. I did type it in pero I cannot send the super chat because it exceeded the allowable text. Thanks for the response. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Oh, yan. Ang dami nag-hi sa a certain Ahmed at saka Awesome One. Ito. Arvin says, if we're to change the constitution, what's the best way to do it? I've heard the proposed parliamentary constitution by the consultative committee headed by CJ Puno, which is really good. Kaso nakakatakot kung ang magsulat ay yung mga nasa Kongreso. Well, no matter what, it will be Congress who will be writing the amendments. So, tapos bobotohin lang natin which ones. Diba? Paki-shoutout naman sa mga nag-manufacturers ng sinigang mix for helping make sinigang the best soup veggie in the world. Veggie soup in the world. Ilan man lang kasi ang gumagamit ng totoong sampalok sa pagluto ng sinigang. I feel alluded to. Kasi pagka meron maraming sampalok, we still make sinigang sa sampalok the old-fashioned way. At saka yung yung pinaupong manok stuffed with sampalok. But you're right, kukonti na lang. But still, diba, it still approximates the good sinigang. Lauren says, can you please invite Parlade sa Karambola o Tambayan? Di ba na-interview na namin ilang beses sa Tambayan si General Parlade? Nakapaka-eye-opener po ang talakayan nila ni Sas. Kayo talaga, halatang si Sas pinapanood niya pero hindi kayo nanonood ng Tambayan. Twice ko na siyang in-interview. Do you have any comment about Lenny's previous comparison of Davao to Cebu considering Cebu's current situation? I didn't see that comparison. Is there any update regarding the returning OFW's quarantine protocols and the always canceled flights? Well, yung mga pag-uuwi po from, if I'm not mistaken, saan ba? UAE ba? Yung hindi pa pinapauwi. It's still because of the Delta variant. Quarantine protocols have not changed. Pero yung canceled flights, there's very little that the government can do about it because it's the airline that cancels it. So, sa totoo lang, yung nagre-reklamo kayo sa gobyerno tungkol sa canceled flights is an exercise in futility. The best that the government can do is provide yung mga flights nga. And the government pays for that. Aarkilahin nila yung buong aeroplano para makapag-repatriation flights. So, Usually, kasi the airlines are already hemorrhaging money. Wala na sila, lulugi na sila. And PAL is considering filing for bankruptcy, di ba? So, yung mga reklamo about canceled flights, I'm afraid there's very little that can be done about it because it's a pandemic and they're losing money. So, nagka-cancel sila because these flights are not no longer going to be efficient for them and they're losing money. So, the best that we can hope for is ask government to have more repatriation flights. But then you're just passing the expense off to the government. So, ang problema nga lang is that yun nga, may ticket na kayo, bayad na kayo, pero nadidelay ng nadidelay. Hi. Idol, Attorney Ahmed, lalo na pag nagagalit. Sarap pakinggan while cooking. No dull moments. Salamat for your continuous explanations as to what is currently happening in the Philippines. More power to both of you. Greetings from Vienna. Alam nyo, parang walang nagtanong tungkol dun sa mga Denisovans. Kasi i-extend ko to kung pag-uusapan natin yan. Tanong lang po, yung vaccine card hindi po accepted sa ibang bansa. May narinig po ako, gagamitin daw po yung yellow card vaccine. Ang mahal po, di po dapat libre. 135 pesos po yung sa department, sa Bureau of Quarantine. Yun po ang ginagamit. So, ano yung sinasabi ninyong mahal? I saw that it's only about 100 plus pesos. Hindi po totoo na mahal. Okay, Denisovans. Denisovans are spelled Denisovans. Denisovans. The name Denisovan comes from a cave in Siberia. Ayan, extend please. Okay. Sige. Denisovans. Okay, naalala niyo yung sinasabi natin na parang genome project na nag-survey ng genes ng mga iba't iba sa ating mga katutubo dito sa Pilipinas. At na-track nila yung tinatawag nating mga migrations. San tayo nanggaling, saan nanggaling yung mga ninuno natin, and so on, di ba? May further study yon. Kasi nahanap nila na isang tribo ng mga Aita, na magbundok Aita, if I'm not mistaken, tama ba yung pagka-pronounce ko, have the most percentage of Denisovan DNA. What are Denisovans? Denisovans are a hominid species. Kumbaga, pinsan ng mga modern man. Tayo, modern man, Homo sapiens. So, dati kasi, maraming species na tao. Yung unang theory was that evolution yan. From one species to Homo erectus, to ganito, diba? From ancient species to evolving in a straight line. It's no longer true. It's possible that, from out of Africa, nag-evolve ang iba-ibang species of people. Mahirap kasing intindihin that kasi right now, wala tayong nakikitang ibang species ng tao. Isa lang tayo, Homo sapiens lang. Pero there were other kinds of hominids before. So, ang mga hominids na ito that we are familiar with, for example, we've heard of Homo erectus, diba? And there are more. Ngayon, dun sa few years ago, diba, discover toe bone at saka ilang ipin dun sa Callao Caves sa Cagayan Valley in the north. Nung baklas yung DNA ng mga ito, they found out that this hominid, which they later named Homo luzonensis, had DNA from the Denisovans. What are Denisovans? They are like a sister class of hominids or a species of hominids closely related to the Neanderthals or Homo neanderthalensis. Okay? So, yung Homo neanderthalensis, mas madami sila. Yung mga Denisovans, yung fossils lang na nahanap, hindi pa kompleto, nahanap sa isang cave sa Siberia. Years later, nakahanap din sila ng mga Denisovans in northern China. So, dalawa lang yung lugar. And yet, most people dito sa area natin in East In East Asia, konti, pero may traces of Denisovan ancestry. Sa Europe, may mga traces of Neanderthal ancestry. Kasi ibig sabihin, yung Homo sapiens noon interbred with other species of hominids, such as the Neanderthal, and in our case, the Homo denisovans. Ah, dun sa dun sa yung mga Denisovans, ang alam natin, ang nakikita natin, we thought the highest concentrations of DNA were in the Papuans, on Papua New Guinea, at saka yung mga Australian Aborigines. And as it turns out, it is our Negrito from one tribe of Negritos who have the highest concentration of Denisovan ancestry, Denisovan DNA. What does this mean? Ang ibig sabihin, dahil ang Homo luzonensis may Denisovan DNA, tapos itong bago, yung ating mga Negrito population, may Denisovan DNA din, it is possible na when human beings, when yung modern humans dumating dito sa Pilipinas about 50,000 plus years ago, or more or less, meron na ditong mga ancient hominids. Yung mga Luzonensis, it's possible, di ba? Kasi yung toe bone was 63, it was 60 to 70,000 years old. So bago pa dumating yung mga yung Homo sapiens dito. Tapos, posible meron na dito ng mga Denisovans at nag-interbreed sila with the Negritos who came a little later than them. Pero even more important was, hindi one-way yung trip. So kung nanggaling sila, let's say, from Africa or from some other area, kasi Sundaland yan. Naaalala niyo po ba yung Pangea? Dati lahat ng mga countries, lahat ng lupa ay iisang landmass, tapos nag-drift apart sila in the continental drifts, di ba? Yung malaking portion, East Asia and Australia and all of that is called Sundaland, isang portion ng Pangea. So dun sa Sundaland, yun yung mga nakakatawid. When they finally broke up, nakakatawid pa rin sila afterwards, di ba? And even during the glacial periods, nung bumaba yung mga ocean levels, nakakatawid sila. Pero yung doon is that hindi lang tumatawid one way. In other words, kung galing sila from some other country using the Palawan Mindoro corridor, the Sulu-Zamboanga corridor, yun yung dinadaanan passageways papunta dito sa archipelago natin. And they came from somewhere else, nakakabalik din sila. So ibig sabihin, parang even long before we did have, the Philippines has an ancient prehistory. Wala lang tayong maraming fossils, pero nakikita natin yung ebidensya dun sa DNA ng ating mga katutubo. Ayan. So that's our short lecture for today dahil bagong-bago po yung findings natin. From Pangea, ayan, sabi ni Lance, Pangea, yes, alam niya yun. So from Pangea, naging, yung portion natin, nung nag-break away po, nung hindi pa naghihiwalay-hiwalay, it was called Sundaland. Home Diva says, if the highest concentration of Denisovan DNA is here, could it mean that our civilization and culture is older than previously thought? That our history is older than that of China? Just a thought. Well, kasi when you're talking about civilization and culture, you're talking about modern humans already. So, what we're talking about is ancient prehistory na. Yung mga we're talking about the thousands of years, not just centuries, not just 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years. We're talking about 70,000 years ago in Kalinga, where they found the remains of a rhinoceros. I refer to it as the rhinoceros dinner party because may mga tool markings. Kinatay yung rhinoceros doon sa Kalinga. So nakita natin yung mga remains doon. And ibig sabihin, 700,000 years ago, may mga hominids dito. We don't know yet what kind of hominids they are. They could have been Denisovans. Now we have some evidence that it could have been Denisovans, or they could have been the Luzonensis who killed that rhinoceros and ate it. Diba? But the point is, yes, in fact, we are older, but we're not just talking about civilization and culture because civilization and culture would imply modern human history na. We're talking about history even before modern humans came to the country. Diba? Okay, Rain. And let's deal with this finally. Lemuria and all of that. There is no evidence of Lemuria. There is no evidence of Ophir. At least it does not appear in any of the academic treaties. When it starts, we can discuss them. Pero right now, nobody has taken it up in the academe. We wait for that kasi doon vetted yung mga ganun na theories. Ang Pangea, hindi na po siya theory. Na-prove na siya ng geology natin. Pero yung mga lost continents, Atlantis and all of that, Lemuria and all of that, we're not sure yet about that. We need to find the remains of those continents before we can conclude that there's such a thing as a lost one. Kasi yung sinasabi nilang basis for the lost nahanap na yun eh. It might have been, kasi yung Atlantis came out in Greek literature. So we're not sure if it was fictionalized, really one something like that, or they based it. It was a story based on an actual occurrence. Uh, that's why I don't talk about yung mga when there is no academic basis for it yet. Hindi muna natin i-discuss and will never consider them even as theories yet. Okay? There are scientific theories, yung mga theories na yung mga archaeological findings already. We have working theories and we have already what is known as scientific theories. Scientific theories because we can prove it every step of the way. We cannot, in many instances, you cannot replicate them. Okay. How will this affect the buyers? Wala, matagal na po. Waves of migration at saka mga land bridges, all of these have been debunked decades ago. So, yung kinahukano kasi na nga may bago ng may mga excavations na tayo that have been disproven all of these theories. Plus, the genetic evidence can now disprove all of these theories. We actually came from there's archaeological evidence to migrations from Taiwan. Nag-stop over sila sa Batanes. And then some of them went to Papua New Guinea, the others went down to Luzon. So meron tayong mga ganon. And the genetic evidence and the linguistic evidence is already proving it. When Bayer and Hocano made their theories, wala pa po yun. In fact, si Otley Bayer, yung waves of migration, wala talagang basis yun. Those were just theories that it was a working theory that we ended up studying and finding their way into textbooks. Which isn't to say that Otley Bayer wasn't a genius. He was. It's just that yung theory niya on the waves of migration, medyo malabo na yun. Disproven na po yun. Denisovans are an extinct species of hominid. May nag-research. And may nag-google. And a close relative to modern humans are added to the human family. Yes. In fact, yung sa Israel na finding na excavate nila, they have found the more important finding there is that they found a community, mga fossils of different species. May Neanderthals, may modern human, and then they found a species much older than the both. So it means that the new theory now isn't the Neanderthals didn't break away from the early African pre-hominids, the ones that came African na pre-hominids. Yung theory kasi dati, kaya nagkamaraming species, yung originals, the pre-hominids came from Africa, they went out, tapos dahil nagkaka-speciation, dahil naghiwalay-hiwalay sila, nag-evolve sila into different species of humans. Pero, the question is, bakit nagkahalo-halo? Bakit may traces of DNA in certain species? Like in modern man nga, may mga Denisovans, may iba na descended naman from the Neanderthals. So bakit gayon? So the new theory now, because of the very, very recent excavation in Israel, is that the Neanderthals and modern humans may have shared a common ancestor. Diba? Sabi ni Erickson Bongo, Africa tayo, talaga tayo galing. Well, there's two theories. The theory that all human species came out of Africa and therefore it's the cradle of humanity, not just civilization. But the second theory is that the hominids evolved from different areas. Kaya may mga very, very old fossils that we are finding in China. Mark Rivera says, pero I believe that humans improve species that evolve on different races only. What do you mean by that? I'm not sure what you mean. Why do you bring race into this? I'm not sure what you mean because all species, all biological Ayun. Sorry, medyo mahina yung internet kanina. Ang sabi nila is that, naku, nawala ako. Sabi ni Rin Suizo, Denisovans Neanderthals split from modern humans 804,000 years ago and from each other 640,000 years ago. That's the old theory. It's now being challenged nga. Kasi only a month ago, nagkaroon ng excavation sa Israel and the findings is that there are species there that are older but contain the DNA of both modern humans and Neanderthals. And they haven't named the species, and it is possible that they are the precursors of humans and Neanderthals. So that theory that you're saying, Rain, is being challenged. Sabi ni John, narinig ko nga ang Neanderthal when Pidots insulted a certain... Can you please not call him that? Ginagamit niya ng kabila. It's really weird. A certain person. Ang lawak talaga ng vocabulary niya. Yes, but he didn't use it correctly. Kasi ang Neanderthal, oo, ginagamit bilang insulto yan. Pero ang totoo niyan, ang Neanderthals, iba lang sa ating humans, but they were capable of making tools. They were capable of the same things that humans were capable of. Yun nga lang, they were just bigger and stronger. Their brain case was also different. So we're not yet sure exactly how they thought or what advantages their brains were capable of doing that were different from human beings. We know later on that the modern human, Homo sapiens, probably either had a bloody war with the Neanderthals or were more efficient when they were competing. Nung malalaki na yung populations, mas magaling lang yung mga Homo sapiens at communications, and therefore they were able to create bigger groups that banded together, forming something akin to armies that were able to wipe out the other species. So Neanderthals are not stupid. We cannot presume their stupidity because they were capable of making tools and they were making pottery and all of that. And yung iba, sinasabi nila kung nagka-create rin din sila ng something akin to jewelry or or yung mga gayak, which implies that they had developed enough to consider aesthetics rather than mere survival. So wag masyado namang when we call out the president when he is wrong, and he is wrong in the use of Neanderthal to imply that the person is stupid. Yung dinis-discuss nga ni attorney, yung original manok mukhang galing sa Pilipinas. Pwedeng idikit sa human migrations. That's true. Do you believe that we are genetically designed species by supreme beings or aliens? When I see evidence of that, I will, ganito yon. I like to consider all of these theories. They're very entertaining. Pero, for me to say that I believe in something, there has to be something more than just an argument. There has to be evidence. Curious lang, sabi ni Ma'am Chacha. These recent archaeological finds, how will they impact po sa Genome Project last time kung meron po? This came from that project po. Yun po yung pinanggalingan nun. Guys, the JPE jokes really are not funny anymore. This is why I love science. Sabi ni Melvin, it's based on evidence. Okay, if there are no more, ito, sabi ni Cheryl, more topics like this, sigurado pag nagkaroon ng quiz about evolution, bagsak ako. Okay. Sabi ni John, Neanderthals' brains are smaller than Homo sapiens. Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean they were stupid. Ito, sabi ni Benedict, hey, pro-evidence si attorney, love you po, sana all. Paano kang hindi magiging pro-evidence kung abogado ka? If BBMNs are run against each other, who will you pick? I will consider that when the time comes. There's no point in beating myself over the head making a choice when I don't know if that choice is premature. Diba? Dino, sinabi ko na nga smaller. They were bigger. Problema ito. Bakit ka galit? As a former balik scientist, I hope the next president should give more priorities to science and technology research. Our neighboring ASEAN countries are now very aggressive in science research. Oo. Related ba tayo sa Ainu Eskimo Aleutians in Ryukyuans? Kasi if related tayo sa Formosans, we can say na related din tayo dito, supporting the Denisovan connection. Ang alam ko, East Asians eh. So I'm not sure kung posible Eskimo Aleutians because similar genetic characteristics. Michael Mandanuay says, is the theory of land bridges, there were no land bridges. Okay, what is a bridge? It's a structure where water flows underneath. Okay? There were no land bridges. What there were was yung mga underwater land formations when the glacial age arrived, lumaki yung mga polar ice caps, dumami yung mga glaciers. Saan nakuha yung tubig ng glaciers? From the sea. So, nung naging ice na yung mga karamihan ng tubig sa mundo, bumaba yung levels, so they were easier to cross. So, sea travel, okay, yung mga balanghais, they came much, much later. They came, ano bang century? When the Vikings were crossing the Atlantic, the balanghais were supposedly crossing the Pacific according to the National Museum. So iba pong time period yung iniisip nyo. That's much later. May civilization na nun. What's that? Yeah. For me, about the topic of Denisovans is only labeling that name Denisovans. Ang pinaniniwalaan ko lang na pinanggalingan natin lahat ng tao ay Adan at Eva. That labeling a name Denisovans for them causes divisiveness. Please don't include your faith into my science para magkasundo tayo. 25 years ago, meron na na-discover sa American continent kaya mga Eskimos, American Indians, and Mayas mukhang Asians. Alam nyo, there are hidden theories about the kung saan nanggaling yung mga American Indians. I have to study that. Aralin ko muna, hindi pa ako sure. Pero yung Eskimos and Aleutians, they have shared characteristics eh. So, but I want to be very sure about it. Huwag nyo munang don't consider it gospel truth yet. Check ko pa. Maraming nagagalit kay BBM kasi willing daw ko na makatandem si Itneb. Di nila tinapos yung video. Sabi ni BBM, open ako if magkakatugma kami ng principles. If Sara and BBM will run, who will you vote for? Stop asking me that question. I'm not going to worry about it until it happens. Diba? I am not going to answer that question because I have not made a choice. Okay? Stop repeating the questions. Okay. Now, yes, I agree that BBM was smart enough to dodge that bullet. Wondering why our country doesn't have any ancient civilizations discovery like pyramids of Mayans, or is it our archipelago is simply a bridge connecting to other land masses? No, it's because our climate and the makeup of the entire country is not conducive to the preservation of these structures. Even if we had massive stone structures, which I doubt, we do have some ancient stone structures in Quezon, but not very, very ancient. Siguro between the 9th and 12th century daw, sabi ni Dr. Dizon ng Archaeological Studies Program ng UP. But to say that we didn't have any ancient civilization would be wrong. Structures don't necessarily imply because some people built their structures into the mountains. It's possible that a lot of it just got destroyed and that they were made of wood or things that could not last the centuries. Maswerte yung mga gumamit ng bato, di ba? Last two questions. Hindi ako voter registered dito. I'm here in HK. Where do I register and when? May mga registrations usually sa consulate. Just consult with them. Kasi nagre-reactivate na rin daw ng registration sa mga consulate, sabi ni Sec Teddy Boy, but only in selected areas. Okay. All right. For those who are making comments about the Bible and about religion and all of that, that's fine. There's freedom of religion. Pero don't try to impose your faith on my science. Okay? We can all agree to disagree. You don't have to try to convince me about your religion, and I will not try to convince you that science is more objective than that. Okay? Because I can practice my own sort of witchcraft while still believing in science. The ability to hold the two opposing ideas in your head is what defines genius, sabi nila, or intelligence. Okay. All right, last comment. I'm loving this intellectual talk. I'm learning and relearning a lot from you. More power from England. Okay, and on that note, may Sutil Saturday po bukas. Pero most likely in the early evening or late evening. Hindi ko ma-resist itong question na to. Bakit iba-iba itsura ng mga tao? Ano po ang dahilan? Talaga. It's called evolution. And diba? Finally, thank you very much for everybody na nagpadala dun sa super chat natin at saka sa super stickers. And again, Marvin, please don't try to enroll me in any of your faith. I fully respect your right to observe your own faith as long as you fully respect mine as well. And also to allow me to practice my science as long as I'm not telling you to abandon your religion in favor of this one. Diba? We're just talking about this. I'm not proselytizing, and I'm not trying to recruit you into anything. So we can all live and let live with our different beliefs in the in the universe, in supreme beings and other matters that belong strictly in the realm of faith. Thank you very much for all the likes and shares, and thank you very much for an interesting date here online. If some of you are feeling the need for sweets, then don't forget that we also have kinukulit ako ni Mermaid Bakes eh. Okay? So, sabi ni Rain, let's eat adobong baboy de gadon in Antipolo. Yun yata yung standardized adobo. Okay. Thank you very much. Sabi ni Ma'am Pinay, kaya kayo po ang kataas-taasang sutil. Mabuhay po kayo. Oo. So wag niyo we're all sutils here kahit iba-iba yung faith natin, kahit iba-iba din yung science natin. Although dapat pare-pareho 'yon. Maraming salamat. We'll see you tomorrow for Sutil Saturday. Mag-isip kayo ng topic natin para bukas kasi ang dami natin na discuss ngayon. Thank you very much. Uy, tulog na. We'll see you tomorrow.